Thank you, both of you, for doing this, taking the time out. I really enjoyed your film. I think, yeah, it's the best of the four. Um, it is. And I want to ask you, Neeraj sir. It's with short formats. You've done ads as well. Is there a different way that you approach telling these stories? Because a lot of the time, what you see in short films is people try to squeeze in plot. And what I liked about this film was it wasn't plot driven; it was character driven. Um, so yeah.
No, actually, I don't approach. See, making wise, I put in the same energy if it were an ad film, if it were a short film, if it were a feature film. Uh, Much to the dismay of my managers who think that I should not put in so much energy into an ad film. It was just commercial. But it finally, I feel that it's just an expression of yourself, and I want to put in as much. With short films, I think I find it to be way more democratic a forum because it lets me it gives that freedom to say and construct the world exactly the way you want and not be bogged down by the commercial pressure or the pressure of time or the pressure of a certain scale or whatever. You can be truly honest here, and I like the complexity that it brings in is that you do not have time for character development. Character and plot comes at the same time. Character and conflict come at the same time. You open with it, and then how do you sustain it, and then how it has to have a crescendo of a climax. Because in a feature you have time to develop a character's arc and then come to a point where you introduce the problem, the conflict of the thing, and then you take time to resolve. But here all of that has shrunk. Hence, it takes more time. It takes more energy to write. It takes more time at the edit and writing and rewriting, which is the edit, takes longer and is more complex. But the making remains the same. I mean, same for I think Aditi also.
Yeah,
I was frankly like blown away
absolutely.
by how much the film kind of talks about, yet feeling very lean, in a very strange way. I also enjoyed the way that you bring out the isolation of these two characters because both of them kind of isolated in their own ways. And I think I want to ask you about your character. She's not a bad person. She's just learned some things along the way that maybe she hasn't been able to unlearn. And I think a lot of us are like that. How did you kind of uh, tap
No,
into this person?
in fact, I mean, she's just human.
Hmm.
Two, she's a human in a particular situation. In fact, you're talking about learn or unlearn. I don't think she's learned anything, honestly. Like she's such a child and she's so naive and she's a child of privilege in many ways. And I'm not talking about economically. I'm talking about just where she belongs and her possibly her surname or whatever it is. She comes from privilege, and but at the same time, in her situation and in and her circumstances are very complicated, and one realizes that privilege actually does not mean all of these things. It actually means the, the to have the choice and the right and the power to be able to choose what it is that you want to do, and to even have the space to understand it or realize it. So actually, that is what it is, and neither of these girls has any of it, you know, because they're very much caught in their circumstances, in their in whatever parameters that they are born into or have to work within, etc., etc. So I find Priya and Bharti very interesting, but of course I'll only talk about Priya. Is that a very childlike girl, very naive, very, very innocent, and everything that she says or does comes from that place of innocence. It's another matter that the where she is placed is far more complex than she even understands. And I think that made that part very incredible, and it's not my doing as much as it is in the writing of it and in the context that has been created for us as actors. So it was very exciting actually to work on something like this where you are actually responding from your core, which is very simple, but actually what's happening around you is something that is just way beyond your comprehension or control. And you are really a product of patriarchy and years of
Conditioning, actually.
conditioning. Thank you.
Yeah,
Yes. Yeah.
yeah. Uh, Neeraj sir, I want to ask you. It reminded me, although not very strongly, but I was reminded of Serious Men. Perhaps because it's very recent and it's in my mind. Uh, but then similarly, so I thought about something is that both these protagonists in these films have kind of realize that obviously it's not a level playing field and the game's rigged against them. It's always been rigged against them. So they decided to not play by the rules anymore. They're like, we will do whatever it takes to move ahead in life. Now, approaching that morally, was that something that you thought about? Like these people are going to just scam their way to the top?
No, actually, how I looked at it the whole way is that, see, fundamentally, what I feel is that human life is such that there are no bad people, there are no good people, there are no evil, there are no good people. It all depends on your relative context of your circumstance. That's how you become. Your existential self is a subject of that, I feel. What I mean to say is that both Bharti and Priya,
Hmm.
somewhere, like, Priya's agency is compromised, okay, because of her circumstances, of her surroundings, of the way she's been told about a certain things, that this is how the world functions, you better toe in. Now she's a character. Actually, the way we looked at her, I mean, the way Priya's character is constructed is she's a basically. I don't like the idea of a manic pixie dream girl. Okay, and I wanted to subvert it by giving it to a female gaze. It is Coco's gaze of a manic pixie dream girl, but still she has agency. She decides that, okay, I don't want to do this and I want to do this. But even her agency is compromised because she's been tutored by surroundings, by at home, that this is how you're supposed to behave, where the manager is telling her this is who you need to dine with, this is how you need to behave. So I feel that both the women are victims of their own surroundings, and that's how real life is, because I find this very limiting, a cinematic way to put someone as extreme negatives. That's the challenge that I wanted to put myself on, that it's outright to believe that, okay, fine, a conventional family, whatever, you're trying to expose somebody to bigotry or whatever, but it is also to see the context from where it comes from. Like, the example is, White Ribbon. It gives you the context of how Nazis came into existence. How, so it's a very fantastic film, one of my favorite films. That is the idea that I wanted to generate, because we do not contextualize villainy or the vice in people. Hence, that was the idea to go with. I think, have I digressed a bit?
No, no, it's fine.
Okay.
Uh, on a related note, I want to ask you, all these four films end in a sort of a twist, for a very like basic term. But often we see is that the stories are driving towards that twist. It doesn't feel natural. It feels like the twist has been like tacked on at the end. Did you kind of have a way around that? How to overcome that challenge?
Of course, because, like, you don't want MacGuffin. Like, you want your climax to be earned,
Yeah,
but also it should not feel like, okay, you suddenly come up with something that is so discordant with what you've been showing. It should not feel like that also. So that was a challenge, I must say, because how much do you reveal, how much do you not say about it, how much should it smoothly transition into, even with this choice of, should I place music here because it accentuates that inflection point, should I do that or not? So those were the choices that I had to go through, and I hope I've been able to kind of bring in organic climax, rather than, like, just giving a shock element.
yeah, it feels very organic. This one
Thank
feels very organic. It works really well. I think I want to ask you also, you spoke about privilege, and I want to kind of draw like a parallel between your character and yourself. Like, what has your experience been in the film industry? Have you noticed like privilege working against you or for you? Are there ways in which privilege function in the film industry as well?
Why don't you just come and kill me? No, I'm just joking. No, I'm just joking. Because that's like a hectic question. So, of course, you're dealing with that everywhere all the time. But I also find it very interesting that the film industry is one of those places where the privilege or lack of um, has little to do with the things that we are talking about in this film and more to do with just your your I mean your the family that you come from in terms of the work that they do, and by that I mean it's more dynastic for sure. And of course, one has dealt with various situations. I mean, to put it like simply, after like I've been working since 2011, and it it is difficult for me to possibly get what I think that I should be getting for a particular film, or the understanding that one might need, whether even if it's like working in stressful times. And I feel like if I belong to a different family, by my second film only, I would be, earning possibly that much more. Or my father would be able to call the producer and say, I'm sorry, I'm not sending my daughter onto set. It's very unsafe. I don't have that privilege, because I'm just anybody else. Having and what I'm saying is it comes not out of any kind of resentment. Possibly because in my own life, I come from a lot of love and privilege, Uh, so, so there is a kind of comfort with, maneuvering these things, etc., etc. Um, so I would say, I mean, I'm just being very, very, very honest, and I'm saying that the resentment has never set in for me, all right, and I just treat it as a factual thing. Uh, Having said that, there is a lot of Priya that is also in me, where I really am very straightforward about many things. I say what I feel, um, possibly not in a different way, but and I deal with my situations the way that I think are best. But I do feel that in her case, possibly, like I said, the agency, though she has agency here and here, practically it's taken away from her by patriarchy and by her conditioning, etc., etc. Whereas for me, hopefully, and as I grow, the agency does lie with me. I can choose what I want to do, who I want to work with,
Yeah.
etc., etc. And I hope that I'm able to do it. I don't know. We live and learn, and we grow up as we are working, and we scrape our knees, and we fumble, and we fall, and we get up, and whatever it is. So yeah, I can only hope that. Yeah. I don't know if I've answered your question. It was too complicated a
Can
question.
I add to what Aditi was saying? I feel that
Yeah.
I'll make it short. What I feel is that, see, there's a myth. Basically, privilege is not a monolith because it's always considered as a monolith of, say, dynastical or nepotism or whatever. But I think, see, tell me, like, if I'm from a small town, I come here, and if I hold the privilege of being a part of a section of a society which is more accepted or whatever, how do you counter that privilege from, let's say, class, let's say, dynasty? So all of these
Oh,
things are intercutting, and hence it's a
yeah.
complex system. So what I feel is at the end, it is unfair, it is undue advantage, is undue access to things. However, I feel true art will transcend the test of privilege or anything. A true artist will stand the test of time, regardless of privilege or not having it.
That's
And
true. That's
and I do
absolutely
also
sorry.
feel that privilege is, in like suppose for me with my privilege, I also it also gives me the freedom to believe simply in just human beings. Uh, so there is also a nice part of that privilege that maybe I have been brought up with so much love and to believe that it's about people. It's not about gender or caste or religion or language, whatever. Like so, that is my privilege in a very beautiful way. Like that is also like there's so many things to this. It's so difficult to just break it down into one thing or say this is this is good or not good, or it's too many things. Very much like the country that we live in. It's so diverse in in its very ansh. It is, yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's true. I mean, I hope that you're right, like true art will survive everything. But I just hope
Yeah.
that you're given the chance to make that art. Like, that is my only
Like I said,
concern.
unfair advantage, of course.
Uh-huh. On a slightly related note, so I sat and watched the credits of the films, and I watched yours obviously as well. What I noticed was that while everyone's being given credits, and that's very nice, there are certain titles that I thought was a little off. Like I thought that valet boy, setting boy, prop boy. Do you think those should change, especially in context with the film that we watched?
Well, I mean, see, these credits come from production, but I do hear you. In fact, a parallel to that, what I feel is that, see, when you go to, let's say, Lightmen or Spot Boy, sometimes you only have first names. I want to be able to change that. From my next film, I kind of get into it, but sometimes it misses out. But it's like, why aren't their last names taken? Because they said उन्होंने सिर्फ first name बताया, but no, but go and ask them.
Yeah.
Because if their fun is actually watching the full name there, please give them that thing. But the terminology used in films is actually, that's how they're termed, like a spot. But on the set, if like on our set, I mean, there was a blanket rule that you'll have to address people with their names. You can't, like, I would scream at people if anyone says setting spot idhar. You have to go learn their name and address them.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
So
absolutely.
this is what we were done in our on our set also.
Yeah. Small
Yeah, yeah, very
changes.
true.
Finally, Neeraj, so it's been, I think, a couple of years since I spoke to you last, and I'm going to ask you a question that I asked you back then also. When is the new film coming?
This year,
Everybody is asking a question.
I do think I keep hiding, Aditi, because no, this year hopefully I am making my film. I mean, no matter what.
It has to. It's been too long.
Yeah, really.
Uh,
Very true.
Thank you for this one, though. This is very good. And it was lovely talking to you. All the best.
Thanks a lot.
Um, Speak to you soon.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, bye, stay safe.